In France, the maker of ABSOLUT vodka has seen sales slump. Hardly surprising that Pernod Ricard has had such a difficult time when you think that the number of restaurants, bars and clubs that have been closed as a result of the pandemic. However, the chief executive is not all downhearted. He points out there have been many ways in which the company has found new and growing markets.
Well, that's a great question. But if you look at our numbers and our net sales numbers, down 9.5% for the full 12 months ending June, bearing in mind that we've basically gained market share or maintained market share in most markets, this means that people have been drinking at home. But overall, during this crisis, people have indeed been drinking less. That's key. It's true. Now there are new ways of drinking that have come up. There's been quite a lot of innovation in terms of hometainment, in terms of Zoom drinks, and so on and so forth. But overall, during the peak of the crisis, people have been drinking somewhat less.
The Zoomtainment, the Zoom happy hour, that started really strongly at the beginning of the pandemic, and people either got sick of it or they just couldn't face it. Did you see that in the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, initially it was a new way. It was quite innovative and fun, but then, as always, there's a little bit of fatigue on one side. But what this says, this proves fundamentally the need people have to connect together, the need they have to really share celebration moments, to really share a drink together. And we're also seeing that as the on-trade is reopening around the world, people are reconnecting together. Does this mean it's the end of Zoom happy hours? No, I think it'll stay as well, because it's a way people discover to share something together when they're not in the same place, when they're in different cities, different countries.
Biggest seller, come on, of all those bottles behind, which one sells the most?
Well, from a value point of view, profit-wise, Martell, our cognac, and we have Martell Blue Swift in the US, which is doing very well. If we look in volume, ABSOLUT, which has been quite resilient, but has been the brand most exposed to travel retail and to the night trade. And if we look at growth brands, the fastest growing brand on average, which is Jameson. Yeah, you cannot not mention Jameson, which has proven to be extremely resilient during this crisis and still managed to grow in 50 markets around the world over the last 12 months.
Extraordinary. Thank you, sir. It's just lovely to hear the story of how the world is drinking at a time of crisis, and it proves that the on-trade is vital, the in-home is important, but is a shifting market. It's really interesting. What has surprised you most, finally, as you look at your data and as you've analysed it? What has surprised you most?
Well, what has surprised me is in fact, the resilience of consumption around the world. Initially, when the crisis hit, we were a little bit more pessimistic on how the future might look like, the short-term future, especially in the off-trade. And when we started seeing the Nielsen panels and the off-trade in most countries in the world growing double-digit, we said to ourselves, at the end of the day, we're in quite a resilient industry.